The rain had stopped, but the streets of Sector 9 still smelled like oil and smoke. It was the edge of the city, where broken lights buzzed, drones flew low, and no one asked questions after dark. David adjusted the strap of his work bag, the weight digging into his shoulder. His shift at the turbine plant was over, and he just wanted food and sleep. He turned into an alley he used every day. It was narrow, quiet, and forgotten by the patrol drones. But today, something was different. He heard it. A soft sound, like a muffled cry, barely louder than the wind. David paused, another whimper, weak and desperate. He slowly moved forward, eyes scanning the shadows between piles of broken metal and trash. Then he saw it. A figure was curled behind a pile of crates. Thin, shaking, barely more than skin and bone. Her skin was pale gray with a soft glow. An alien species he didn't recognize. But what caught his eye was her arms. She wasn't alone. She held a bundle wrapped in a dirty cloth. A baby. The woman's large violet eyes locked on his. They didn't show fear. They showed something worse. Hopelessness. David stepped back, unsure what to say. She didn't move, just stared. Then, slowly, she raised a trembling hand and pointed to her child. No words, just a silent plea. David looked down. The baby's eyes were closed, mouth barely moving. No sound, not even the strength to cry. Just a small chest rising and falling, barely alive. David's hand went to his pocket. He had one thing left from lunch, a compressed protein bar, held it up slowly. The woman's eyes widened. She gave a small gasp and reached out, hand shaking so much it almost looked like she'd fall over. David crouched down, placed the bar in her palm and waited. But she didn't eat it. She tore it open with her teeth, broke it in half, and pressed the smaller piece into her baby's lips. David watched in silence as the alien child took weak bites. Crumbs fell on her mother's lap. Only after the baby had swallowed did the woman take a small bite herself. Tears ran down her cheeks. But she never made a sound. David sat down on the cold ground. "What happened to you?" he whispered. She looked at him, then down, then back again. 3 days, she said in broken standard. No food, no water, no mercy. David blinked. 3 days? She nodded. They left us, punished. Why? She held her baby tighter. I begged for help, for milk. They said, child is weak, waste. I screamed. They hurt me. Then threw me out. David felt something twist in his chest. This wasn't just a starving mother. This was someone left to die. He looked around. No one was coming. The alley was still, quiet, like the world had turned its back on her. You need a doctor, David said softly. She shook her head. No clinics for me. They see me. They report. Take child. Kill me. David clenched his fists. Where are you from? Refugee block. Sector 10. Forbidden now. I broke rule. I cried too loud, the way she said it like crying was a crime. David stood. Come with me. The woman looked up, confused. I have a place. Not big, not clean, but warm. You can rest. Eat. Hide. She didn't answer. Please, David said. Your baby won't make it another day here. The woman looked at her child again, then slowly, painfully, she got to her feet. Her legs wobbled. David reached out to steady her. Her skin was ice cold. What's your name? He asked. Valina, she whispered. David nodded. I'm David, and I won't let you die out here. As they left the alley, David glanced over his shoulder. A security drone hovered above, scanning the area. He pulled up his hood, covered Valina with his coat, and quickened his pace. His heart pounded. He knew helping aliens was risky in this part of the city, especially ones marked as disruptive. But as Valina clutched her child and followed him barefoot and silent, he knew one thing clearly. Whatever danger waited ahead, he wasn't turning back. Not tonight. David unlocked the door to his one-room living space. It wasn't much, just a small bed, a cracked table, and a heater that worked half the time. But compared to the freezing streets, it was paradise. Valina stepped inside, holding her baby close. She didn't look around. She just collapsed slowly, onto the floor beside the heater, her back against the wall. The baby whimpered once, a soft, painful sound. David knelt beside them. "You're safe now. No one will find you here." Valina didn't respond. She was shaking, not from fear, but from exhaustion. David stood and opened a cupboard. There were 3 nutrient packs, half a loaf of stale bread, and an old thermal blanket. He grabbed everything and brought it to her. "Here. Eat. Cover the baby first." Valina's hands moved with care. She wrapped her child in the blanket, then sipped from the nutrient pack like it was the last water in the galaxy. "Thank you," she said in a soft, tired voice. David sat down across from her. "Who did this to you?" She looked up slowly, her violet eyes dull with pain. "My people. The council." "Why?" "They say I broke the rules. I asked too many times, I made noise, I refused to leave when they told me to give the child away." David frowned. "Give him away to who?" Valina swallowed hard. "To the collectors. They take weak ones, use them for testing. They say, we are too many. They want to reduce the burden." David's stomach twisted. "That's not reducing, that's murder." Valina nodded slowly. "But we are outsiders. We have no rights here." David stood up and began to pace. "That's not right. There has to be someone who can help you." "No," Valina said quietly. "Anyone who helps is punished, even humans." David stopped. "You mean someone has helped before?" She looked at him, her eyes sad. "A woman, kind like you. She gave me warm soup once. They found out. She lost her job, sent back to Earth with nothing." David sat down again. The weight of her words settled on him like iron. He had always heard rumors, stories of mistreatment in the alien refugee zones, but he never saw it up close, never saw a mother punished for trying to feed her child. Now he had. "Your baby," he said, looking at the bundle. "What's his name?" Valina touched the baby's forehead gently. "Sero. Is he sick?" "Not yet. But close. No milk, no warmth, his breath is shallow." David nodded. "We'll get him help." Valina's eyes widened. "No, not the hospital. They'll scan us, report us." "I know someone," David said slowly. "She's a medic, a friend, works quietly. She helps people. Off the record." Valina hesitated, then gave a slow, unsure nod. "Only if she won't tell." "She won't," David promised. He stood and sent a quick coded message from his wristband. It was risky. Rosa didn't like surprises, but she cared, and she hated injustice. David turned back to Valina. "Rest here tonight. Lock the door if I leave. Don't answer unless it's me." Valina nodded. "You trust me?" "I trust a mother who would starve just to feed her child," David said. He gave her a pillow, placed the baby beside her, and dimmed the light. She curled up, wrapping both arms around the child protectively. Even in sleep, she didn't let go. Hours passed. Then a knock. David opened the door a crack. Rosa stood outside, her coat soaked from the rain. "Are you insane?" she whispered. "You brought a marked alien into your home?" "She has a baby," David said. "I know, you messaged me about it." Rosa entered, looked at Valina sleeping on the floor, and sighed deeply. "She looks half dead. She hasn't eaten in 3 days." Rosa knelt beside Valina, gently feeling the child's forehead. She checked his breathing. Then she stood. "I'll bring some medicine tomorrow. For both of them. But David, if anyone finds out—" "I know," he said. "I'm serious. If the council learns you're hiding her, you're done. No job, no shelter, maybe even prison." I can't throw her back on the street, Rosa, would you? Rosa looked away. No. Silence filled the room. She said she was punished for asking for help, David said. She's not wrong. The council is cruel. They make examples of people like her, keeps the rest quiet. She's not a criminal, David said. She's a mother, which is exactly what makes her dangerous, Rosa replied. She has something to fight for. David didn't sleep that night. He watched Valina breathe, watched the child shift in sleep, watched the darkness outside his window, waiting for flashing red lights, waiting for boots and drones, but nothing came. And in the quiet, he made a decision. If they came, he wouldn't run. He would protect them, even if it cost him everything. Morning came slow. Gray light filtered through the window, painting the cracked walls in dull colors. David sat on a stool, eyes heavy, muscles stiff. He hadn't slept, not even for a second. He kept his ears open all night, listening for drone wings or boots in the hallway. But it stayed quiet. Valina stirred. She opened her eyes, and for a moment confusion washed over her face. Then she looked down and saw her baby still breathing. Warm. Alive. She let out a small, broken sigh. David gave her a gentle smile. Morning. Valina nodded, her voice barely a whisper. Thank you. I thought I wouldn't wake up. David handed her a cup of warm synth milk. You're safe. For now. She took it with shaking hands, sipped slowly, then fed a little to Sero, who opened his eyes and made a soft noise. It wasn't a cry, but it was life. Rosa will come later, David said. With medicine. Valina nodded again, weak but grateful. David stood and looked around his tiny room. It suddenly felt smaller. Danger pressed in from all sides. He knew the truth. If someone from the building saw Valina, it was over. Refugees weren't allowed in residential blocks without permits. And Valina was worse, marked, banished, and hunted. David had one choice: stay quiet and hope no one noticed, or act. I'm going out, he said. I need to find someone. Valina looked alarmed. You'll leave me? Just for an hour. Door stays locked. Don't open it unless it's me or Rosa. She hesitated, then gave a small nod. Be careful. David grabbed his coat and headed into the cold street. Rain had turned to mist. The city was waking up. Machines humming, workers walking, drones blinking. But David didn't go to work. He took the long road, weaving through alleys and side paths until he reached a small mechanic shop with red light strips over the door. He knocked 3 times. Then once again, a special rhythm. The door opened. A man with cybernetic eyes peered out. You again? I need a favor, David said. The man, Rex, sighed. You always need a favor. This one's different. Rex let him in. The shop smelled like oil and hot wires. Inside, a few humans worked on stolen tech, salvaged drones, and hidden transmitters. It was a place for those who lived below the rules. David told Rex everything, quietly, about Valina, the child, the punishment, the marks on her back, the baby starving. Rex listened, silent. You know what this means, he said finally. Helping her makes you a rebel. You'll be marked. I don't care, David replied. I can't let her die. Rex leaned back in his chair. You've got guts, I'll give you that. But guts won't stop the patrol drones. Can you hide them, just for a while? Rex frowned. Our safe houses are full. Too many aliens already, and humans too. But I might know a place. Where? Rex looked around and lowered his voice. The old shipping yard. Sector 4. There's a hidden shelter underground. No one checks it anymore. David nodded. How do we get there? Not easy. You'll need fake IDs, travel papers, heat cloaks to fool the scanners. David swallowed. Can you get those? It'll cost. I'll pay. With what? You work minimum wage, Dave. David pulled out a silver pendant from his pocket. It was old, scratched but valuable. His grandfather's from Earth. Pure metal. Illegal to sell, but priceless on the black market. Rex stared. "You sure?" David nodded. "I'm sure." 2 hours later, David returned to his apartment. Valina was rocking her child, softly humming a melody that sounded like starlight. When she saw David, her eyes brightened. "You came back," she said. "Of course I did." She looked surprised. "Most don't." David gave her the fake ID card. "Name's now Lena, and your son is Kai." She stared at the card. "You're helping us leave?" "Yes, there's a safe house. It'll take time, but I'll get you there. Rosa will bring medicine today. After that, we move." Valina clutched the card. "Why are you doing this?" David didn't speak right away. He looked at her, skin still pale, lips cracked, child nearly lost. Then he said, "Because I couldn't sleep knowing you were out, there starving. Because no one else helped. And because you reminded me what it means to be human." Tears welled in Valina's eyes. "I'm not human." "You're a mother," David said. "That's enough." Suddenly, a loud clang echoed from the hallway. David rushed to the window. A patrol drone was hovering outside, slowly passing the building. His heart froze. "Lights off," he hissed. Valina held her child close. David pulled the curtain shut, pressed his back against the wall, and held his breath. The drone paused, then flew on. Silence. David exhaled. Valina looked at him, still clutching the baby. "They're looking for me." "Yes," David said, "but they won't find you. Not while I'm breathing." Valina sat quietly on the floor as Rosa injected the baby with a tiny silver needle. Sero didn't cry. He was too weak for that. But his breathing was steady now and his skin had a bit more color. "He'll recover," Rosa said, wiping the needle. "But slowly. He's still fragile." Valina bowed her head. "Thank you. Thank you for not turning us in." Rosa gave her a tight smile. "I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for him." She looked at Sero, then turned to David. "You sure about Sector 4? David nodded. "Rex says it's still untouched. No patrols, no scanners." Rosa exhaled. "I hope he's right. If they catch you transporting her, they won't just deport you, David, they'll vanish you." David's face hardened. "Then I'll vanish with her." Valina looked between them, her voice soft. "I don't want you hurt," David replied. "Then stay alive, that's all I ask." The room fell silent, filled only with the low hum of the heater and Sero's soft breaths. Rosa left soon after, slipping into the shadows without a sound. David watched the door close, then turned to Valina. "Who really did this to you?" he asked. Valina was quiet. Her hand stroked her baby's small fingers. Then slowly, she looked up. "It wasn't just about food," she said. "It was about my mate." David leaned in. "Go on." Valina took a shaky breath. He spoke out. To the council. Said the refugee camps were death prisons. Said our people were dying from cold and hunger while the leaders sat in heat domes with real food. He wasn't afraid. What happened? To him? "They made him vanish," Valina whispered. "No body, no word. Just gone." David's fists clenched. "They killed him." "Yes," she said, voice trembling. "And when I cried for justice, they said I was a danger to peace, that I was a wound that must be closed. They marked me, pushed me out, my child unborn, no care, no food, no help." David felt heat rise in his chest. Not anger, rage. This wasn't some accident. This was silence by design. "They didn't want your baby born," he said. Valina nodded. "Because he carries my mate's blood, and my mate was a rebel." David stood and began to pace. "No wonder they're hunting you. It's not just survival. They want to erase a name, a voice." Valina's eyes filled with tears. "But I won't let them erase my child." "You won't," David said. Because now you're not alone. Later that night, David met Rex again, this time in the tunnels beneath the mag rail. Tracks. The air was thick with rust and water drips. Old graffiti lined the walls, some in alien languages, others in human ones. You've made up your mind then? Rex asked. Yes, David said. I want her and the child in Sector 4. Soon. Rex handed him 2 cloaks. Heat-bending fiber. Won't fool a facial scan, but drones won't track body signatures. You have 40 seconds if you're spotted before the system recalibrates. David took them. That's enough. Rex squinted. You're risking everything, Dave. You don't even know this woman. David stared back. I know enough. Rex chuckled darkly. You've got rebel fire in you now. David didn't smile. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of watching people suffer while we pretend to be civilized. Rex handed over 2 data, tags, fake travel passes. 1 glitch and you're fried. These won't last past 2 days. After that, the system purges unknown codes. 2 days is all I need. As David turned to leave, Rex called out, You know, her mate wasn't just a rebel, he was part of the Red Echo. David paused. What's that? Rex leaned in. Underground movement. Mostly aliens, some humans. Real fighters. The kind who don't just run, they strike back. David's eyes narrowed. You're saying she's linked to them? I'm saying, Rex smirked. Maybe fate dropped a rebel child into your arms for a reason. Back in his apartment, David found Valina feeding Sarah with the last of the warmed formula. She looked up when he entered. Tomorrow night, he said. We move. Valina nodded. How far is it? About 4 kilometers, tunnels and side paths, no main roads. I can walk, she said quickly. David raised an eyebrow. Even if you couldn't, I'd carry you both. Valina smiled just a little. You speak like a warrior. David shook his head. I'm just a tired man with a strong back and a short fuse. She looked down at Sarah. I wish he could grow up safe. He will, David said firmly. And he'll know his parents fought to give him that. She looked up at him, eyes wet but strong. You're not just helping me, David. You're part of the story now. His story. David didn't reply. But deep inside, something shifted. He wasn't just helping anymore. He was choosing sides. Rain fell hard that night. It wasn't like the soft mist of the last few days. This was heavy, loud, punishing, like the city itself was warning them to stay inside. But David had no choice. They had to move. Now. He helped Valina into the cloak. Its heat-bending fabric shimmered faintly as it activated. It covered her small frame completely. Sarah was tucked close to her chest, bundled in a sling beneath the cloak. David strapped the second cloak across his shoulders and adjusted the hood. You remember the path? He asked. Valina nodded. Tunnel under the tram line, right at the rusted pipe, then down to the drainage fork. David handed her the forged ID chip. Keep this close. If you lose it, we don't stop. Valina's eyes were sharp despite the fear. I won't. David opened the door a crack. The hallway was empty. He took a breath and gave a nod. Let's go. They slipped into the night. For 20 minutes, they moved through back streets and forgotten alleys. Twice, they ducked under broken vents to avoid passing drones. The cloaks worked, barely. One drone hovered a little too long, scanning, but then drifted away. They kept moving. The city felt colder than usual, like something was coming. And then, it did. As they turned the final corner toward the tunnel entrance, the sirens wailed. Whoa, whoa, whoa! A red light flared behind them. Patrol drones. David grabbed Valina's hand. Run! They dashed into the tunnel entrance, feet splashing through shallow water. The sound of buzzing wings followed close behind. A spotlight swept through the dark, slicing across their path. Unknown heat signatures detected. Halt for identification. A mechanical voice boomed. Valina held Sarah tighter and kept running. David pulled out a flash bomb from his jacket An old rebel tool Rosa had slipped him just in case. He turned and threw it. Boom! A flash of white light. The drones spun, their sensors blinded. David and Valina turned left at the rusted pipe and dove into the lower drainage fork. The air was thick with mildew. Pipes dripped from above. The ground was slick and dangerous, but they didn't stop. Behind them, metal feet clanged against concrete, voices echoed. Target confirmed. 1 adult human, 1 unregistered alien, 1 infant. Use force if necessary. David felt rage boil in his chest. Use force on a baby? He stopped, turned, and pulled a metal grate shut behind them. Valina looked back. That won't stop them. No, David said, but it'll slow them down. They reached a small side chamber, a broken maintenance room. A narrow shaft led down to the hidden safe house Rex had promised. David reached for the hatch. Bang! A stun shot hit the wall inches from his head. 3 soldiers in black armor appeared at the far end of the tunnel. Their eyes glowed red. They raised their rifles. Valina screamed and threw herself over Cero. David roared, turned, and threw his last flash bomb. Boom! The light lit the tunnel like a sun. The soldiers staggered. David yanked the hatch open. Go! Valina slid in first, clutching the baby. David followed and pulled the hatch shut just as more stun rounds slammed into the wall above them. Darkness surrounded them. A ladder led down. Step by step, they descended into silence. When they reached the bottom, they entered a wide underground room lit by soft blue lights. Old crates lined the walls. A makeshift heater hummed in the corner. A bed, a table, some food stores. It wasn't paradise, but it was safe. For now. Valina collapsed to her knees, gasping. David knelt beside her, placing a hand on her back. You okay? She nodded slowly, eyes closed, tears on her cheeks. Cero, he's okay. David reached over and felt the baby's chest, still breathing, still alive. He let out a long, shaky breath. They made it. An hour passed before the hatch above buzzed. David jumped up, ready to fight. But a voice called down, Rosa, don't shoot me. He opened the hatch. Rosa dropped down, soaked from head to toe, her face pale. They're everywhere, she said. They're calling it a terror alert, saying you kidnapped a dangerous refugee and stole government tech. David scoffed. A mother and a baby, that's terrorism now? Rosa nodded grimly. They're not looking for justice. They're looking to make you an example. David looked at Valina. Her eyes were closed. Her hand still gripped Cero like she feared he might vanish. We need to get them off-world, he said. Rosa sighed. Then we'll need help, real help. David stood. Then let's find it. Later that night, David sat beside Valina. I'm sorry, he whispered. She looked at him, confused. Why? I couldn't stop them from hunting you, from hurting you. Valina shook her head. You didn't hurt me. You gave me something I thought I lost. What's that? She smiled weakly. Hope. The underground shelter had no windows, but David could feel the day passing above. The air inside was warm but stale, thick with silence and heavy thoughts. Valina sat on the old mattress, holding Cero close, rocking him gently as he slept. Her eyes were hollow. Not from fear, she had lived through worse, but from knowing danger still hunted them. David stood near the rusted pipes, staring at the wall. He hated waiting. Any news from Rex? Valina asked quietly. David turned. Rosa went to find him. We need off-world clearance codes, real ones, and someone to smuggle you both out. Valina nodded. You trust him? David hesitated. I want to. Suddenly, footsteps echoed above, metal on metal. David raised his hand and moved to the ladder. He pulled his stun blade from his belt, a soft knock. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. David relaxed. It's Rosa. She climbed down, her boots dripping. Her face looked pale, and her lip was bleeding. What happened? David asked. Rosa wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. I was followed. Valina gasped, clutching Sero tighter. No one saw me enter, Rosa said quickly. I looped 3 drones and dipped into a sewer shaft. But someone is feeding the council intel. Someone close. David narrowed his eyes. You think Rex? I don't know, Rosa interrupted. But 2 rebels were captured last night, and someone reported fake IDs. Guess whose? David's stomach turned. We have a traitor, Rosa said. And we're out of time. That night they moved again. Rosa led them through a water line that ran beneath the city's outer wall. David carried Sero inside his jacket, keeping him warm. Valina limped slightly, her legs still weak, but she didn't complain. They reached a sealed grate, lit only by Rosa's wrist light. This leads to the old port tunnels, she said. Rex said there's a freighter coming through in 6 hours. If we make it there, we might get them out. Might? Valina asked, her voice tight. If the captain still honors the deal, Rosa said. David looked around. And if Rex didn't sell us out again? Rosa didn't answer. David turned to Valina. If anything happens, she cut him off. Don't say goodbye. David stared at her. You've already given too much, Valina said softly. If I must die, I'll do it as a mother who saw one man fight the entire system for her. You're not dying, David whispered. Not today. 2 hours later, they reached the port, dark, silent. Giant steel crates lay stacked like sleeping beasts. Cargo drones hovered overhead, scanning for motion. David's pulse raced. There, Rosa pointed. Dock 9, that freighter leaves in 20 minutes. You 2 get on board. I'll handle the gate override. David nodded. What about you? I'll stay, she said. If I'm gone too, they'll know something's up. This way I can buy you more time. Valina grabbed her hand. Thank you. Rosa smiled. Give that child a better life. As Rosa ran to the far control terminal, David turned to Valina. You ready? She nodded, tears in her eyes. They moved. 10 feet from the freighter. Voice boomed behind them. Stop, hands up. 3 soldiers appeared, rifles raised. Lights blinded them. Valina screamed and shielded Sero. David turned to fight, but it was too late. One stun shot hit him square in the chest. He dropped hard. Valina fell to her knees, cradling Sero, sobbing. The lead soldier stepped forward, voice cold. Target acquired. David awoke in chains. His head throbbed. His back burned. He was in a cell, cold, damp, with blue lights on the ceiling. No window. Just a camera. Watching. Footsteps. A familiar face entered. Rex. David's heart sank. Rex smirked. You think kindness saves lives? No, Dave, power does, order does. You sold her out. I saved myself, Rex said. And you were a tool, now you're a message. David lunged, chains holding him back. Where is she? She begged for her child, Rex said, smiling. Begged, screamed, but she wouldn't hand him over. So they took her. David shook with fury. I gave you everything, he spat. And I gave them you, Rex replied. He turned to leave. David slumped back, breath shaking. He thought of Valina, of Sero's tiny hands, of Rosa's warnings. He had failed them, or had he? Hours passed. Then the cell door opened again. A soldier entered, helmet on. David didn't look up until the soldier knelt and whispered, David, get up. It was Rosa. She pulled off the helmet and tossed him a key. Valina's alive. They separated her and Sero, but they're still in the port. I jammed the security feed. We have 12 minutes. David stared at her, breathless. You came back. I don't leave people behind, she said. He unlocked the chains and stood, still weak. Rosa handed him a weapon. Let's go. 1 shot. No second chances. David nodded, fire back in his eyes. This wasn't about escape anymore. This was about justice. David followed Rosa through the narrow emergency corridor, each step burning in his chest. His muscles ached, but his mind was focused. They had 12 minutes. 12 minutes to find Valina. 12 minutes to rescue Sero. 12 minutes before. The council sent backup before the traitor Rex locked the system, before this all became a memory written in blood. They stopped near the storage bay. Rosa pulled up a map on her wristband. Valina's in holding chamber C. Sero was taken to the medical lab, 2 floors apart. David clenched his fists. We split. Rosa hesitated. It's risky. She needs me. So does he. Rosa finally nodded. Take the west path, keep left, avoid cameras. David nodded and took off, breath heavy, boots slapping the steel floor. Valina sat in the holding cell, chained, weak, and afraid but not broken. She had fought off 2 guards when they tried to take Sero by force. She had screamed until her throat bled. And now, alone, she waited for whatever sentence the council would give her. Her thoughts were not on escape. They were on her child. Was he alive? Was he cold? Was he crying? She whispered his name over and over, like a prayer. Then, a sound. A soft click at the door. It opened, and David stood there, breathing hard, eyes wild. She couldn't speak. He stepped forward, keys in hand, and dropped to his knees to unlock her cuffs. You came back, she whispered, voice cracked. Of course I did, he said, gripping her hands. We don't leave family behind. Valina collapsed into his arms. I don't know where they took him, she cried. I do, David said. Rosa's going after him. Valina looked up, trembling. Is he safe? He will be, David said. I swear it. Meanwhile, Rosa moved like a shadow through the medical wing. The doors were open, the lights dim, and the halls eerily quiet. She found the nursery room, clean, white, heartless. Inside, baby Sero lay in a glass pod, hooked to scanners. A lab. Tech stood nearby, entering data. Rosa stepped in silently, her weapon raised. Step away. The tech turned, shocked. He's a specimen. He's a child, Rosa said coldly. She stunned the man and smashed the control panel. The pod hissed open. Sero cried out, weak, frightened. Rosa gently lifted him, holding him close. It's okay, little fighter. We're going home. Back at the lower bay entrance, David helped Valina limp toward Dock 9. The freighter was still there, its engines humming. Their last chance. Then, alarms blared. Security breach in holding wing. Medical wing compromised. David gritted his teeth. They know. Valina gripped his arm. Keep going. They ran. Guards appeared in the distance, shouting, raising weapons. But then, a door burst open and Rosa ran toward them, Sero in her arms. Move, she shouted. David turned, stunned. You got him? Yes. Now run. They bolted as stun blasts flew past them. Sparks showered from the walls. A shot grazed David's shoulder, but he didn't stop. They reached the freighter ramp. The captain, a tall woman with metal skin and sharp eyes, looked down at them. Boarding unauthorized, she said coolly. David stepped forward. You agreed to help. Things changed. There's a price now. David reached into his coat and threw her the only thing he had left. His Earth ID chip. His birthright. The last thing tying him to the system. The captain caught it, scanned, and then nodded. Deal. She opened the hatch. Rosa passed the baby to Valina. Go. David pushed Valina inside. Rosa turned to him. I'll stay. Someone has to delay the guards. David looked at her, broken. Rosa. She smiled. You saved them. That was always the point. Then she turned, ran toward the pursuing soldiers, and vanished behind a cloud of smoke grenades. Inside the freighter, Valina clutched Sero tight as the engines roared to life. David fell into the co-pilot seat, breath ragged. The captain looked at them through the mirror. Strap in. David glanced at Valina. Her eyes were closed. She was whispering something to her child. Live, Sero, she murmured. Live louder than they ever wanted you to. The freighter broke through the atmosphere. The stars opened wide like a door. Days passed. Far away, on a peaceful moon, David sat under a soft blue sky, holding a small flower. Saro crawled nearby, playing with pebbles. Valina walked up beside him and sat down, the wind blowing through her dark, silver-streaked hair. "We're free," she said. David nodded. "We are. But freedom is a fire," she added. "You have to feed it, or it dies." David looked at her. "Are you ready to fight again?" Valina held Saro close and smiled. "I already am." David leaned back, closing his eyes. He had no home, no past. But now he had something more, a family, a purpose, and a promise. That no mother, no child, would ever be left behind again.